Hello folks, we're going to talk about Credit Suisse, and it's a long investor base. There's a beautiful quote by Hemingway, which is like, how do you get bankrupt? Gradually and then suddenly. And so in many ways, what happened to Credit Suisse is very similar to this. Credit Suisse was not triggered by an event or a bad loan or a single debt or some interest rate change or some dramatic restatement, none of that. And Credit Suisse has been in some kind of slow burning trouble for a long time as in 8-10 years. And so they had a couple of counterparty big losses they had to write down. They've been paying fines for 8-9 years, large fines adding up to billions of dollars. Their equity has been vulnerable for a while. The base has not been high for Credit Suisse. So lots of things have slowly made the bank more vulnerable. And so for the last 8-10 years, their equity base has eroded. They've had a couple of big losses that they had to write off, which basically counterparties. Typical risk in banking, they were big this time around. They paid lots of fines. They did lots of things that were borderline unethical, illegal, where they got caught that they had to pay fine. All of this eroded their capital base. They were slowly struggling. They had a bunch of changes in their management, thrice over. They never completely inspired confidence. It was always. It had become a bank that was vulnerable 7-8 years ago. Not 7-8 years ago, probably 4-5 years ago. We've had bad news for a long time now. And then there was a big investor from the Middle East who came in and said, look, this is a venerable bank. Credit Suisse has multiple businesses. The juiciest probably is a private banking one. There is still tremendous value in that. And therefore, it was always going to attract some investors, which they did. After which they said, look, our last 2 years numbers need some restating, which is actually not a good phrase you want to hear from your CEO or chairman, saying we want to restate something has to be looked at. We need to have another look at how we have presented our numbers. All these are fudges. That means there are more losses than they've accepted, which caused an issue, and then the thing rapidly spiraled out. But it is gradual, then rapid. And so UBS had to come back and the funny thing about UBS and Credit Suisse are like they've had like a sibling rivalry going on for decades. And so the worst thing for Credit Suisse, for their ego, is to be bailed out by UBS. It's a big event because UBS plus Credit Suisse is going to be a giant banking system in Switzerland. It's going to hold something like 2 times of Switzerland GDP as their total assets that they have, which is huge. So if something goes wrong in this consolidated bank, it can bring down Switzerland or the entire banking system. So UBS is now super important, and that's a pain point. You can't have one thing be super important. There's been a shotgun marriage. UBS has not had time to look at Credit Suisse books. You have to just take it one fine morning. God knows how many more holes are there. Right? So sinking banks tend to have more holes in them. That's also an issue. That's something that causes concern. What is the broader implication for this? This whole transaction, which happened more or less at gunpoint, they pushed it through and made one crucial thing. They said, look, this 81 bondholders will wipe them out. And so it's a very important idea in theory, it's a very nice idea. Whenever something goes for bankruptcy, there's a hierarchy of liquidation. You start with whatever insolvency liquidation points cost are there, that has to be given. Right? Then creditors, loans, deposits. Finally, it comes to equity. And so I don't forget about the nuance and detail. So if you're an employee and you've traveled and your travel booking hotel credit card is maxed out and you come back, that has to be repaid. That gets repaid before the bank loan. That gets repaid after anything is owed to the government. So if you paid something to the government, nothing is left behind, employees have to hold the can. So there is a hierarchy for this. For what has to be paid for solvency proceedings, what needs to be given to the government, what needs to be given to the employees, what needs to be given to the people who have loaned money, debt, and equity. So some preference holding, convertible, all of that will come in between. What happened with this beautiful Credit Suisse thing is, technically speaking, when you go down these layers, at some point, you'll hit zero. It's like saying, I have a pot of money with me, I keep giving. I'm gone bankrupt. I have money, I keep giving. These guys will come and claim, then these guys, then these guys, then these guys. If it goes to zero, all 4 get zero. If it go to zero at this point, these 2 guys get zero. Nice, simple hierarchy, which is why equity holders come right at the end. Equity, I'm the guy who owns the company. What is remaining is mine. I cannot lay claim to whatever money is on the top. And so I'll fulfill all my obligations. Then what is remaining, I'll have. And what Credit Suisse and what the Swiss banking authorities did. This is wonderful intermediary category called AT1 bonds, which is not equity, but debt, but with like equity-like behavior for debt. And they said that will go to zero, whereas equity still survives. So Credit Suisse shareholders got a cumulative 3 billion from UBS. So equity did not go to zero, but its AT1B went to zero. Apparently, if you look at the fine print in that AT1 bond thing, it clearly says that it can go to zero before equity. If the bank fails and the regulatory authority comes in, then the regulatory authority has the discretion to say this can go to zero before equity. Right? But it's not convention. Convention is to go down in this route. Right? Why did that AT1B thing? And every time you have a class A and a class B, someone wants to create something in between. You have second standard and third standard, people want to run a summer camp. And so anywhere there's the hierarchy, they want to create something in between. So these guys were told it's not, the guys who bought that AT1 bond, they were told it's not as risky as equity, but it'll give you better return than debt. They got in. But it turns out it is as risky as equity or worse, because equity still says that that category has gone to zero, which is unusual to say the least. Legal, apparently, but rather unusual. Why is it unusual? Because the hierarchy is being changed. The guys who own the company ran it into the ground. They are getting something before somebody is repaid. It's unusual, very unusual. Imagine somebody owes you money, and somebody owes you 5 lakhs, and they say, I don't have 5 lakhs. My total, everything I put together, I have only 1.2 lakhs. But to be honest, I have to give 30,000 of medical bill, 25,000 of education bill, and 20,000 of this. So whatever is remaining, only that I can give you. And then he gives you that money, you're like, theek hai. Then you go back and then the guy is coming in with the new bike, saying, I had something, with that I bought a bike also. He'll be like, dude, you didn't give me, you told me you had nothing, and then you bought a bike. Something like that has happened. And what has happened here is that category, that intermediary in between debt and equity, debt only, what kind of equity-like characteristic, that asset class, that's in trouble. And that's in trouble because if Swiss bank can do this, if they're in trouble, so can an American bank, so can a French bank. A Swiss bank has done this. The debt is held by everybody across the world. The Swiss bank regulatory authorities have come and said, this Credit Suisse, UBS, Swiss banks, venerable banks, I need to take care of my turf. I cannot let this company go bust. I will not let equity go to zero. UBS is not willing to buy this. I have to somehow facilitate this. I'll give him biscuit and chocolate and treats and all kinds of things and make him buy it and give the Credit Suisse shareholders also something. Let me screw these bondholders. That's what they've done, kind of. Which means any country, regulatory authority can do that. That means no one in their right minds will now go and buy that AT1 bond, which is a crucial part in the hierarchy of funding. Apparently some $275 billion worth of AT1 bonds are floating around everywhere. That people have already bought. Now, if there's a question mark hanging over that entire amount, at least from now on, nobody is going to touch that with a barge pole. It is suddenly one asset class which a government can come and say, I want to save my banking system, so sorry, that goes to zero. So anytime rules get thrown out like this, that's an issue. So that is an issue. Credit Suisse going bust is not because of a specific trigger that has happened in the global economy. It's not related to crypto or dramatic overnight interest rate change or one giant bad loan. It's a loss of confidence over a period of time, bunch of losses, bunch of fines, erosion of equity, and the fundamentally business becoming shaky and reaching a slow spiral which has accelerated in the last 2-3 weeks. But this accelerated now, it is not created now. Been in trouble for a long time. And in fact, I would trace it for some unusual incidents that happened 14 years ago. So I was an employee with Credit Suisse and I quit in 2009. So there goes. Anyway, just joking. But that is not the unusual part. What does it take away from this is that this intermediary category, there could be a question mark hanging over the entire category there. And that's a big takeaway from Credit Suisse. Anyway, good fun talking about financial sector and industry. Best wishes for your own preparation.